May 1945. The war in Europe finally ended. The Luftwaffe, once a symbol of unmatched air power, collapsed almost overnight. Across the continent, thousands of German planes sat abandoned. From classic battle-hardened fighters to the cutting-edge jets and incomplete prototypes, the Allies suddenly had access to technology far ahead of its time. A silent, urgent race began to locate, study, or destroy everything left behind. By early May 1945, as Germany officially surrendered, the Luftwaffe had effectively ceased to operate. Aircraft were scattered across airfields, from Norway to Austria. Some remained fully intact, others stripped for parts, and many damaged by Allied bombing. Fuel shortages, shattered command chains, and destroyed infrastructure had grounded countless units for weeks. By the time the formal surrender took effect on May 8th, thousands of planes still sat where they had been, silent monuments to a force that had once dominated European skies. In northern Germany, key locations like Flensburg and Lübeck held large clusters of aircraft. Some were intact, others damaged or unfinished. In Prague, hangars were packed with Messerschmitts, Heinkels, and late-war experimental aircraft. At Rechlin, the Luftwaffe's primary testing facility, Allied investigators discovered experimental airframes, wind tunnel models, and extensive technical documentation. These materials revealed the full scope of Germany's jet and rocket programs. The variety astonished Allied officers. Classic planes like the Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf Fw-190 sat side by side with revolutionary designs. The Arado R-234 jet bomber, the Heinkel He-162, and remnants of ambitious projects like the Junkers Ju-287 bomber. Transport and reconnaissance planes, such as the Junkers Ju-52 and Heinkel He-111, were scattered across airfields as well. Many had simply run out of fuel in the war's final weeks, leaving the machines parked and untouched. By the time the fighting ended, the Luftwaffe's administrative framework had completely disintegrated. Commanders surrendered to whichever Allied units they encountered, while ground crews abandoned posts without orders. Aircraft maintenance logs, fuel depots, and spare parts were incomplete, destroyed, or missing entirely. The Allied Control Commission quickly imposed strict regulations. All German aircraft were grounded, and no pilot could fly without direct Allied authorization. The measures were clear: to prevent unauthorized flights, escape attempts, or movement of senior officials. A debate soon arose within Allied leadership over which planes should be preserved and which destroyed. Some saw the Luftwaffe's remaining aircraft as a potential threat, if left intact. Others recognized the immense research value. From the very first days after surrender, the fate of these planes became a question of intelligence, logistics, and political calculation. Immediately after Germany's capitulation, the Allies launched large-scale recovery operations. The United States moved first. On May 8, 1945, just a day after the formal surrender, American intelligence initiated Operation Lusty, Luftwaffe, secret technology. Led by Colonel Harold Watson, teams spread across Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia. Their mission was precise: locate advanced aircraft, secure technical documents, and transport selected planes to America for testing. At Lechfeld Airfield in Germany, American forces recovered several intact Messerschmitt Me-262 jets. At Grove Airfield in Denmark, Arado jet bombers and a collection of late-war prototypes were secured. Valuable aircraft were either flown or dismantled for shipment to Wright Field, Ohio, while others went to Freeman Field, Indiana, for detailed evaluation. Pilots from Watson's Whizzers flight group test flew captured jets under controlled conditions. Their findings shaped the early understanding of swept wings, jet propulsion, and high-speed aerodynamics in America. The British launched a parallel initiative, Operation Surgeon. Unlike the Americans, who concentrated on seizing aircraft, the British sought the people behind the machines. Teams from the Royal Aircraft Establishment moved into airfields at Flensburg, Schleswig, Husum, and Rechlin. Interviewing surviving personnel. Collecting technical documents. Selected engineers and technicians were relocated to British facilities for post-war projects. At RAF Farah, test pilots flew captured aircraft, including the Me-262, to understand performance strengths and weaknesses. Particular attention was given to the He-162. Its lightweight design offered lessons for future trainers and interceptors. The Soviet Union acted quickly as well. Trophy brigades secured factories and airfields across Saxony, Thuringia, Silesia, and Czechoslovakia. Major production centers, like the Avia works in Prague and Bf-109 assembly lines in Moravia, fell under Soviet control. Aircraft, along with tooling and engineers, were shipped east by rail. At air bases near Moscow and Leningrad, Soviet pilots and designers studied the Me-262 and R-234, integrating the insights into early jet programs. Competition emerged among the Allies, the power vying for the rarest planes, especially prototypes produced in limited numbers. Disputes erupted over ownership at central German sites, where American and Soviet forces arrived only days apart. The Allied Control Council tried to coordinate recovery, but tensions foreshadowing the Cold War were already visible. German personnel played a critical role. Former pilots, mechanics, and engineers provided technical guidance, sometimes under supervision, sometimes under temporary employment agreements. Their expertise helped the Allies operate complex systems, such as the Jumo 004 jet engine, BMW 003, and advanced navigation devices. Every step was meticulously documented. Photographs, blueprints, flight manuals, and test reports, recorded before deciding which aircraft to retain and which to destroy. By late 1946, the main collection efforts were concluded. Dozens of Luftwaffe aircraft had been sent to the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union for testing. These programs influenced early jet development and set the stage for a new mission, eliminating all remaining aircraft. By the end of 1945, the Allied Control Council decreed that Germany could retain no military aircraft. The most valuable machines had already been transported abroad, while thousands left behind were marked for destruction. Airfields across Europe, from 1945 to 1948, became massive scrapyards. The directive was clear. Every German aircraft, fighter, bomber, transport, trainer, or prototype reserved for research karma. Bases such as Flensburg, Lübeck, Blankenese, Grove, and Tarnowitz became disposal centers. Allied crews dismantled and crushed airframes, feeding metal back into Europe's recovering industries. At Grove, rows of fighters were methodically taken apart. In northern Germany, British teams destroyed intact bombers that had survived the war. Even late-war jets were broken down, unless already assigned to Allied test programs. Some planes were burned in pits, others loaded onto barges and sunk along the coast. Many underwater wrecks remain to this day, occasionally discovered by divers. Civilian aircraft also faced scrutiny. The Junkers Ju-52, used for military and commercial purposes, was assessed individually. Some were adapted for limited transport service, but most were scrapped to maintain Allied policy consistency. In Czechoslovakia, captured planes briefly served under new designations, before being retired and dismantled. France, which had used some German types for training, gradually phased them out, as spare parts dwindled and maintenance became difficult. Historians still debate whether more aircraft could have been preserved. Some argue that many unique airframes were lost simply because no museums or archives had capacity. Others note that Allied priorities emphasized demilitarization, not preservation, with the political aim of dismantling Germany's war machine outweighing historical concerns. The limited number of surviving Luftwaffe aircraft today is a direct result of this disposal process. Economic factors influence the destruction as well. Metal shortages across Europe made aluminum and steel from Luftwaffe planes extremely valuable. Recycling airframes supplied industries producing consumer goods, infrastructure, and machinery, crucial for reconstruction. For many local workers, scrapping aircraft provided stable employment during a turbulent period. By 1948, the vast majority of Luftwaffe planes were gone. Runways that once hosted fighter and bomber units were cleared. Some repurposed for Allied training, others converted to farmland or civilian airports. Despite this, a few aircraft found a second life under foreign flags. From 1946 onward, nations such as Czechoslovakia repurposed German designs. Factories in Prague, Kunovice, and Letňany assembled completed and partially finished airframes, producing operational fighters like the Avia S-199. Though challenging to fly, the S-199 served in the Czechoslovak Air Force until replaced by Soviet aircraft, with some later sold to Israel, forming its first fighter fleet in 1948. Spain also continued German fighter production, creating the Hispano Aviación HA-1112, a modified Messerschmitt Bf-109 with Spanish engines, serving until the mid-1950s. Norway operated captured Bf-109s and R-96 trainers, some surviving long enough for restoration in the 1960s and 70s. Civil aviation benefited as well. The Junkers Ju-52 entered passenger service in France and other nations. By 1956, when West Germany formed the Bundesluftwaffe, none of the old Luftwaffe aircraft were used operationally. The new Air Force relied entirely on Allied-built jets. From the F-84 Thunderstreak to the Canadair Sabre and F-104 Starfighter, German aviation had entered the jet age, leaving wartime designs behind. Efforts to preserve surviving aircraft grew later in the 20th century. Today, museum pieces often combine parts from multiple planes. Only a small number of intact Luftwaffe aircraft exist today. Me-262s, Bf-109s, FW-190s, and Arado R-234s, displayed from Washington to Berlin, with a few replicas flying at shows. Most original airframes remain grounded, remnants of a vast force once spread across Europe, silent witnesses to how even the most advanced machines can vanish, and how the post-war world reshaped German aviation's legacy.